good whatever time it is. This is the TakeOut Podcast, and I'm your host, Larry Ogeda. Have you questioned anything today? Questioned it? They say a prudent question is one half of wisdom, and this is the basis of human progress. I believe we have an innate desire to seek understanding of our daily life occurrences. The Takeout Podcast offers us an opportunity to challenge biases and assumptions, birth new ideas and perspectives, identify areas of improvement, cultivate a sense of responsibility. Yeah, so this is what we'll be doing in the Takeout podcast. Now, who am I? What am I about? I'm a creative, an entertainer, a podcaster, and your logistic partner by means of cycling around this city. Now, my personality trait is that of a sanguine. I'm always the loudest in the room, which makes me tailor made for this platform to use my strengths for the glory of God. Now, in my name there is the name Ezekiel, and Ezekiel means the strength of God. So I want to use my strengths to serve God in a special way. Now, I'd like to take us back to the 90s. And there was a game, it was called the Brick Game. Hey, if you had this game, you were just on top. You are the man to speak to. As in, if you had this game, then hey, it was enough to something equivalent to just the hunk, the person who people wanted to connect to. That's what I experienced in my childhood. And it comprised of several games inside it, such as the snake, racing, tanks, and Tetris. And all these games were very significant. They had a goal in mind. And by the way, later the snake game was put into the Nokias. If you can remember, there was the 3310. That's the one I remember because that's where I played it first. And then to other phones, yeah. But my interest goes to the Tetris game. I don't even know if anyone knows it was called the Tetris game. But maybe as I explain, you will remember it. It comprised of different shapes of letters. I, J, L, T, no, T, yeah. And these things were called tetramines. They fell into place in random sequences. So you needed to prepare each falling piece into the right place progressively as the game got harder to be successful. And the basic goal of this game was to flip, fit, and repeat. You are not to leave any space, and repeat is the key word. Anytime you'd fail, it meant that you had to repeat. And I believe life is the same. It gets harder as time goes. And if you do not learn a specific thing early enough, you will have to repeat it several times. Yeah. And the goal of this game was, it had, I think the creators of this game had the Zegnut effect behind behind the game, and it had a goal. The goal was to appeal to the problem solving part of the brain, to sub to strengthen the brain part called the cerebral cortex. Now, what is the Zegnut effect? The Zegnut effect is a psychological phenomenon where people remember uncompleted or uninterrupted tasks better than completed ones. Yeah, it was named after Bloomer Zegmad, who first observed this in the 1920s. The effect suggests that when a task is left incomplete, it creates a sort of mental tension that keeps the task active in a person's mind, making them more likely to remember it. This effect is often used to explain why people might feel the urge to complete unfinished tasks, or why They might dwell on unresolved situations. It is also applied in various fields such as the advertising, education, productive techniques, and all this. One of the examples that I can remember during those days, um, we would have to wait for content to come, like for the next episode. You would have to watch this episode, and the next one comes ages after, maybe a week after, so that the program was there every week. So you had to wait for the next week. But I think life has changed that you can watch the series, all of it, and finish it. Yeah, so that is the Zegnat effect, that it would keep you waiting. You'd be, in a sense, just waiting for the right time. Yeah. So this information about the Tetris game takes me back to the perspective that everything has a purpose. Everything has a purpose. So questioning allows us to investigate what the purpose is and the reaction, the reason why. Yeah. The reason why that is attached to it. I believe that each of our experience is tailor-made for each individual for a particular purpose. And the experience is not wasted, overlooked. It is in accordance to how you managed a previous season, so that the next season you're better. Yeah. As a Christian, I have struggled for ages. The thought of just attending church every Sunday and yet affecting no change. In fact, in church, we are reminded to serve, which is a good thing, but church only happens in 2 hours. Are we together? So you must serve humanity the rest of the week. You must affect change through the whole of the week. So we really have to make a difference. Are we together? So in that is the basis of me bringing about this podcast. The question I pose to us: are we the status quo, or are we against the status quo? Being the salt and the light calls us not to hide beneath, but to be revelations of God to our society. So the purpose of this podcast is to investigate, to question, why is it the way it is? Yeah. So in Romans 8, 9 to 20, for the creations await eagerly, longing for the revealing of the sons of God, which is you and me. For me, have to be revealed. Yeah, and it's a season that I feel we have reached already. It's a season we have reached already. If the Kenyan protests were anything to go by, there was a word that was used often. The word was occupy. Occupy parliament, occupy hospital, occupy such and such, occupy this and that. And I think it's time for us, specifically Christians, to stop complaining and actually be part of the solution. And the part of the solution is just not to play inside the confines of the four walls of church. We should go beyond, beyond. Let's occupy parliament. Let's occupy the media spaces. Let's occupy talks. Because you understand that culture comes from basic communication between people. Yeah. And so I want us as Christians to form agendas. Because if you don't form an agenda, someone is forming the agenda for you. And the reality of the matter is, there is an agenda form. We must have a counter agenda. We must have a counter agenda. Because the enemy is not sleeping. They are always on the run. And if the information that we have consumed so far, if I as a Kenyan have consumed so far, so many things that we didn't know. Yeah. And I feel like the world today, not in Africa alone, the world today is run on deception, fam. Deception. Deception. What we think is true, if you examine it properly and put things into context, you will see that there is an agenda. If anything is to go by, we hear the Economic Forum agendas. Hey, they are very scared, yo. And it's funny that they are using our leadership to make this as culture. Because you understand that the constitution forms how we live. In fact, I will delve deep into the constitutions and understanding why are they having a certain trajectory. It's like every year it gets worse, like it gets harder. It has things that are bad, some are good, but most of them, they're not working for us. It's like they're working for another country. Um, yeah, so I'll be challenging that in our leadership. Fam, please occupy parliament by running for seat. If we don't go there ourselves, people who do not have our goal in mind will go there. If you do not get to occupy a space, the people that occupy it will run according to how they feel they should. So, enough of that. But what I will be looking at are the spheres of influence we have. And I believe the relationships are the bedrock of human progress. The world keeps pushing for an individualistic living, a kind of life that is just me, and I. Yeah. And yet we are to build a community. You know, I envy the people of before the 90s that you you are answerable to the whole society, not to your parents alone. Like if you would make a mistake, your neighbor can can discipline you, but now try that, bana. Hey, you're going in for a very long time. So we must interrogate our relationships and why they exist and what is the goal in our friendship. Because I feel in our society today, once your role disappears or once we go to our next life, the friendships that you had before disappear. Yeah, because now the purpose is gone. But I feel if we had relationships that are to build each other for future purposes, not just for now, and even not for ourselves, for the people who will come after us. Yeah. So again, I'll be in later episodes. I'll be looking at leadership. What is the purpose? Because the textbook says um, leadership is meant to guide, to help mitigate potential threats, to create improvements through effective mentorship, accountability, and the delegation of duties. Does this happen where we are today? Does it? It's really a question to ponder. I could be wrong, but I feel our leaderships are servants of the West, collaborators in a sense. They're representation of the interest of others, or rather, can I say, the oppressor. The creators of the system we are in today are not in it for the good of us. Some are for the good of us, others are not. Yeah, and then in later episodes again, I will question our education. In history, the purpose of education was to feed the industrial revolution with a skilled workforce. But as we have gone right now, I think we've reached a place where it's diluted. Yeah, it's diluted, and it was it was for the elites, but today it's not for the elites. But as time has come, I think laws are changing. In fact, in Kenya, the price of education has gone high, so high that a normal person cannot maintain it. A normal person cannot maintain it. And then we're given sticks and carrots, like you're given a loan to pay for it. And sometimes even the loan does not make sense because afterwards you leave to this world and don't have a place to fit. Yeah. So I'll be questioning the education. Why is it the way it is? We must investigate because I'm telling you, as I have just researched on the constitution, they seem to be the same. They seem to be the same, having the same goals. Then our culture. We have a culture that we have to adapt to. But the culture is predominantly being used for something. The culture has a goal. The culture has a goal. The culture of the world has a goal. Same as in the past, the days before, there was a predominant culture in Africa and had a goal. But again, in this culture thing, I feel as we have gone to towns, we have forgotten the cultures we come from. Do you know your mother tongue? Do you? And those people who I can speak, I mean, I can hear, but I cannot speak. Are we together? I can hear, but I cannot speak. And I feel, hey, no, it's time to go back to my roots and understand the language. Because the language has a culture to it. Yeah. Um, I am willing to learn the language. So, my Luo friends and family, fam, just know, I'll be doing a podcast that will be targeting us learning our languages. If you're Luo, you're Kikuyu, whatever tribe you are, know what tribe you come from. Know where you come from so that you may live better. Yeah. Yeah, there are no mistakes with God. There is no way God would have put you in a place where He didn't need you to be. Yeah, there are no mistakes with God. Yeah, so again, I'll be questioning our food. Food is just not fuel. It carries cultural, historical, and social significance. And the effects of neocolonialism has forced the food landscape to look like an economic thing alone, an economic purpose only. And yet, back then in our cultures, food was for significant milestones to help us with our health. Particular problems that we had would be sorted by our health. You didn't need to go to the chemist to get medicine. You just needed to go to the shamba, cut a certain tree, sip that liquid inside it, and you're healed. But as time has gone, we have commercialized everything. Commercialized everything. It's so painful that we have commercialized medication. Painful. Well, I think our cultural medicines were better. There were no side effects. There were no side effects. But now, you take medicine and you know there are going to be side effects. Crazy ones. So our food, our medicine, our health, does it even benefit us? Do you know one of the things in our world that is very crazy? You can be rich, but the moment you get sick, I'm telling you, you are poor. The moment you get sick, the moment you have a life-threatening disease, oh my goodness, you will finish every of your resources into health. So I really want us to examine why health is important and occupy those spaces. Yeah. So all this we must look at it in a multifaceted manner, such as making sure there is a community empowerment, policy advocacy, and preserving culture. and also listening and amplifying community voices. So we have work, fam. Let's put our hands on the table and let's start working. We have work to do, fam. See you on the next one. Thank you so much.